Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TechKrunch. It's top of the hour. You've got Glenn Speer and Randy Hopkins here today, and we're going to be talking to you a little bit about what we see out in the wild with real live customers and how we approach looking at the data and how we look at data analytics to model in our environment. Today, we're going to show you a little bit about how much cold data you have, talk about how our peers and our customers are finding different ways of looking at cold data. And it's really the first step in offloading data is understanding what you've got and doing the analytics about your data. And it really is a lot easier than you think. We're going to talk about why it's important and some examples of how customers are actually doing that. This is a technical session. There's no marketing people allowed. We are going to show you a real live product, real live demo, and we're hoping that we have some interaction with the audience on this live broadcast, so that we can give you some tours of what the product looks like and dig deeper into it. Glenn Speer is with me today. He's our senior systems engineer out of Tola. My name is Randy Hopkins. I run the systems engineering organization at Komprise. So welcome and good morning. So Glenn, I think I'll pass it over to you, and let's go right into this. So we're not looking like a marketing organization. We're a technical organization. So let's go right into the technology.
Happy to jump right in here. Let's go. Okay, so excited to be here this morning. Show off some of the things that Komprise can do for you. So gonna jump right in here. This is Komprise. So anyone that's seen the Komprise demonstrations before will be familiar with this. The donut, we used to call it the money donut because it was all green. Colors have changed. It's a lot easier to read now. We took customer feedback and the different shades of green. Some people were actually colorblind and couldn't tell the difference in the different segments. But basically what we're seeing here is the red, orange, yellow is hot data. And as it gets blue and darker blue is cold data. The darker the blue, the colder the data. If you hover over an area, you see how much data there is within that segment. So here I can see data that's 1 to 2 years old, 562.9 terabytes, or roughly 25% of my overall. Number in the middle is how much overall data we've analyzed. So our administrators will live a lot of times.
Hey, Glenn?
Yes.
Since we're doing this live and I'm allowed to interrupt you, I'm going to interrupt for just a brief moment. I failed to mention, hey folks, if you have questions, please put them in the chat by clicking on the question mark or the chat room, and we will look at those and we will cover those live or during the QA portion or anytime we absolutely feel like it. So go ahead. Thanks, Glenn. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem, Randy. Okay, so number in the middle is the overall amount of data we've analyzed. So you can see at a glance here how much cold data I have in my environment. Roughly 50% of my data is what we would consider cold, anything that hasn't been accessed in over a year. But yeah, a lot of times during these demonstrations, we focus on setting global policies, which is what I do over here on the left. I can set my policy to move data, leave links behind, allowing users to transparently access data that hasn't been accessed in a year, or I can move this to 2 years and I see the information move or the graph move. I can move it to 3 years. The purple and white area is showing how much data overall within the environment I will be moving. So we focus a lot on the overall cost savings and setting global policies, but Komprise is a lot more powerful than that. We can dig down layers deeper and allow customers to focus on not only the overall policies, but even situations where maybe they can focus in on different areas within their environment. Why is this important? It's important because many times as customers roll this out, setting global policies for data movement might be something that's an undertaking. They have to get special permissions and things within the organization to implement those. But maybe there's some low-hanging fruit, some other areas that they can focus on to save space right away. Customers a lot of times are in situations where they need to free up space right away. Their arrays are getting full. They need to move data out very quickly. I'm going to show you how our customers are finding that data and move data right away without having to even set global policies. So first thing, when we come over to usage tab, this is where we see the information, other information about the data besides just the age of information. So we focus in on other areas, other attributes of the data, things like the location of data, which is, top shares, top directories. Each of these also has an age element to it. As you can see, the color coding that we have here is the same we saw on the donut graph earlier. So within a share, for instance, I'll see different ages of data within that share. Same thing with directories.
And some of our customers out there are saying that the new colors are pretty cool, by the way. They like them.
Awesome. Yeah. I can't take credit for that. I can't take any credit, really.
Yeah.
But they're pretty nice. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see the demonstration here. But okay. So we focus in on, locations, ownership of data. So here I've got ownership by groups, ownership by top owners. So this is an area that we focus in a lot. One of the first key areas. So what I'm looking at here is ownership, the top 5 owners by size. So on the bottom of the graph, I see the overall size of data for these owners, and within each group, for each owner, I see the age of the data for that owner. So here I can see pretty quickly this A best owner has, roughly, a little bit less than 200 terabytes overall data, but half of it hasn't been accessed in over a year. So what we do here is a lot of times our customers will go to that user, and we call it shame back, but it's reach out to the user, have a little conversation with them and say, hey, you've got over 100 terabytes that haven't been accessed in over a year. Can you go and clean that up? And a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, that was stuff I used for a project a while back. I can go ahead and go clean that up. So that's low-hanging fruit, areas where they can clean up data right away. Other areas that are kind of that low-hanging fruit for cleaning up space or freeing up space, file types. Customers spend a lot of time in this file types area and it can get really interesting. As you can see here, we break down data by file categories. Within these categories, you got like video, archive, and you can see at a glance that there's a lot of old video and archive data we might be able to clean up. But there's also data that might not even be candidates for archive, but actually for deletion. And I think log data is one of those that I show off in my lab a lot, because here I can see at a glance that, for log data, we've got roughly, 75 terabytes of log data that hasn't been accessed in over a year. And the way I think about log data is, you might have log data around for days, weeks, maybe months, but years. Very rarely do you need log data around for multiple years. So these are actual candidates for deletion, just removal completely of this information. So what we can do to find, next step would be to find the location of this data so I can go delete it. That's where deep analytics comes into play. So what deep analytics allows us to do is go a step further than the usage graph, or multiple steps further. We give you 11 attributes that you can do queries against for your data, and we return a file level listing of the data that matches that query that you have set up. So here I'm going to align with that use case that I talked about before. I'm going to come in here and look at log files that have not been accessed in over 1 year. I'll run the query. I can see here, yes, 80 terabytes roughly of data, or 932,000 files. And here's where the real power comes in, because I can come here and look at an actual file level listing and location of where that data resides. And the hope here is that I can identify a few locations of this data, just go in and remove the information, remove this data, because if the company doesn't need it anymore, why not just go in and delete it, free up the space. That gives me a little cushion to go and set my global policies ongoing with Komprise. I can go in here and remove those and free up some space. So another area, this is a different environment that we have. This one's got less data. It's got 107.1 terabytes. This is This is similar to a lot of our customers' remote sites or things of that nature. So in this environment, I'd like to point out a couple of things. So here is another area that customers use, another thing that they use Komprise for. Location-wise, I'm looking at top shares. At a glance, I can see here there's a lot of cold data, roughly, versus the 107 terabytes total. I'm looking at, 8 or 9 terabytes of data within data_test that hasn't been accessed in over 3 years. And so the hope here is that this data test folder, by the name, it sounds like it's probably test type data information, again, that might be able to be deleted. We might need to archive it if it's something that needs to be archived, but this might be just candidates for deletion. Again, I can go in here to this share, find the locations of that data, and maybe just go remove it, because it's a significant amount of data. Almost 14 terabytes, or probably 14 terabytes overall, that hasn't been accessed in over a year in a folder called test. Maybe a candidate again for deletion and free up 14 terabytes of space. One last area, going through this pretty quickly, but one last area I'm going to show off today, and I think this is pretty interesting. We show space consumed by top owners, and this information, you see things like root, and you'll see administrators come up to the top of this top owners area. But really interesting information can be gleaned from this SID here. So what we know when we see a SID in our top owners list is that most of the time what Komprise does is we map SIDs to usernames or group owners. So you can come in here and see the actual names. But if we see a SID, a lot of times what that means is that is a user that's no longer with the company. So what we call that, and I don't know if this is an industry term or a Komprise term or what, but it's fitting for this time of year coming up on Halloween next month, but we call it zombie data. So data owned by users no longer with the company. And here I can see there's a significant amount. It's all blue. So it's all dark blue. So it hasn't been accessed in over 3 years. 1.67 terabytes of data owned by a user that's probably no longer with the company. So what can I do then? I want to find out where that data is. So again, come over to my deep analytics, and I'm going to do a search for that user's data, find the location of that data, and archive it. This data, instead of doing the deletion that I was talking about before, the quick deletes, we're probably going to target this data for archival. So when we set up our policies for archive, we can set policy at a share level. We can also go to a directory level underneath a share and set a policy for that. So that's probably what we'll end up doing here with this particular information. But I'll come down here to owner. I'm going to do a search that owner, the number 311652 at the end. So do a search for data owned by that user. And I see here that there's the 1.67 terabytes of data that hasn't been accessed in over 3 years. And so now I can look at a listing of those files, see the location. I can also pull up graphs that show me additional information about that, what shares the data is located in, owners and groups, which of course this is all by one owner that I have here. But really interesting information. If I need to make this portable, I can download a CSV file that gives me all this information, as well as a full listing detail about exactly where that data is located. So I can go in and point to those particular shares, for instance, and archive that data, freeing up space right away. Okay, so that is a quick overview of some things you can do with Komprise to go below, several layers deeper than just the overall view of age within your environment and archival.
Yeah.
Questions? Anything else?
Yeah, there's a few questions, Glenn.
Okay.
They're incognito. We don't know who's logged on. We don't know if your customers, competitors, prospects. We don't know, and that's okay. This is for everybody. You know, number one is outside the top 5 owners that you showed. What's zombie data, and what can I do with finding zombie users?
Okay, so it's easy to find. The top 5 users. That's an area that's that easy low-hanging fruit. But it's easy to use deep analytics to identify additional zombie data users. So
what is a zombie user?
Oh, a zombie user. We had discussed this a little bit previously, but zombie user is a user no longer with the company that still has data residing on your primary array.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, you can come in here, find files where owner is undefined. Oh, I still have my other things set up. Oh, different environment, sorry. Yeah, come in here and show files by where the owner is undefined. That would be what we consider those zombie users. This should look better. And then I can find the exact locations of this information in the owners. So now I get a longer listing of the owners, locations of all of these zombie users that I have. Here's that one that we had before, 311652, but here's a listing of 5 of them. And then as I clean these out, I'll see other ones start popping up to the top so I can keep them cleaned up.
Cool. All right. What about if I want to see how many VMs I have out there and how long it's been since they've been turned on? Because I know we got a lot of virtual machines consuming space everywhere.
That's true. And that's actually an area that a lot of my customers will find, again, that low-hanging fruit to clean up. This actual environment, I have a virtual machine area, and it actually has the most data out of any file type category. I've got 20.62 terabytes of virtual machine data. And these virtual machines that we see here are most likely not virtual machines that are in use, but they're virtual machine files. So OVAs and VMDKs that were used to stand systems up, but are no longer in use. But this actual environment, is showing red for all of these. So these actually have been used very recently. What I see a lot of times is virtual machines in the top 5 categories, size-wise, with a lot of blue. So someone has used an OVA to stand up a group of systems. They left the OVA out on the NAS device and just forgot about it. So those are easy ways to go in and find those and delete them and free up the space.
Yeah, and again, folks, you can get a list of all those. You can get a common delimited list. You can go through it. You can sort through it. You can find out who owns the files, things like that. So a lot of different things you can do about drilling down and finding those needles in a haystack. So cool. There's another question that was finding old VMs. There's another one saying, is there a way to show how much of my data is hot? I'm thinking about migrating to an all-flash storage platform. How much data is hot?
That's a great question. Yes, and hot data is really what it's all about, especially when you're buying a brand new flash array. You want to make sure that the data that you move over to the flash array is your hot data. You don't want to put a bunch of cold data out there on your expensive brand new flash array. So we can easily identify hot data within an environment. It's the red segment within our donut, and then within any file category or location, etc. Anything that shows up red, this is your hot data. And so what a lot of our customers will do, we have additional capability we didn't go into during this call around migration. So we can migrate data from one array to another. So what many of our customers will do is use Komprise to move everything but hot data off of an array, off of their old array, before they move it to the new array. Then when they move the data along with the links over to the new array. And so what they end up with on their brand new flash array is just the hot data with links to anything cold, reaching out to whatever they want to put the data, whether it's on-prem NAS, on-prem cloud, or public cloud. So you end up identifying the hot data and only moving it over to your brand new all-flash array.
Yeah, another way of looking at it also is if you say, I want to identify where the IOs are coming from, you can see this heat map here where the red and the orange and the yellow represent about 25% of your data. And that represents 100% of the IO in the last 6 months, 100%. So if you say, I want to copy just the most recent 6-month data over to an all-flash array. How much capacity is that, and how would I size an all-flash array? You just do the math and figure out the math on that, how much data is there. So you got the red is how much data is on that red one, Glenn? Mouse over that.
Yeah,
so
105. Yeah, 106 terabytes roughly.
106 terabytes plus the next one would be 247. So that's 300 and whatever. You can do the math there and figure out what size should that all-flash array be. Then migrate the cold data off. Tier the cold data off and migrate the hot data. And we'll cover that in a future session, by the way. So,
yeah.
There's one more, and we'll wrap it up. Can I find files of types that are outside the standard categories? And this is the last question, by the way.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. So, yes, you can. So you see here our standard file types. You've got, video archive log, and they're made up of particular file types. A lot of customers, they want to use these categories, but they have specialized, maybe proprietary file types within these categories, or maybe they even want to set up their own categories. And this is absolutely something you can do. Just a quick call to support. They can either modify the current file categories you have with new file types, or set up completely new file categories with your own file types built into them. So that's absolutely something you can do with Komprise.
Cool. Good. Well, that is, we want to keep this short, 15 to 20 minutes, keep it focused on technology. And so we're gonna call a wrap, but thanks Glenn. That was really appreciated. A lot of good comments in the chat room. So we're looking for ideas. We've got a lot of ideas in the agenda for the next topics. But so what we're going to do is on October 15th, we're going to run a session on how specifically do I find my hot data for migrations, and what can I do with that once I find it. And there you go. That's what we're going to talk about. Okay. So thank you so much. Let's call it a wrap. Kylie, is there anything we need to do at this point other than just say thank you very much? So thank you very much, everybody. Good managing, be safe. Send us emails at randy.hopkins@komprise.com and glenn.speer@komprise.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. Take care. Glenn, say goodbye.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
See you guys.